77 WABC.
1, 2, 3.
Sid Sports Sunday. Every Sunday. The NJDiet.com studios. 77 WABC New York. A Cumulus station. This is Sid Sports Sunday. Driven by Ramsey Mazda. Sid Rosenberg. The stories, the stats, the edge.
28-27 Chiefs. Chargers working out of the gun. Rivers, he's got the snap. He looks, he floats it, end zone, wide open. Mike Williams has got it. The Chargers are celebrating 29-28 with 4 seconds left.
The moments.
Out of a pistol, showing a little fly sweep motion. Mullins pulls the ball back, throws to a wide open Kittle near side. Kittle 40. Kittle needs a block 50. Kittle got the block 30. He is gone. Stone cold. Kittle, 85 yards. Welcome to the 1,000-yard club. Touchdown, 49ers.
Every Sunday.
Trubisky, play action. He'll throw it to the end zone. It is caught. It's a touchdown. Bradley Soul. And the Bears lead it 14-6.
This is Sid Sports Sunday. Driven by Ramsey Mazda on 77 WABC.
They throw it down. They try to pitch it, and they do. To Parker. Parker pitches it. And it's straight. 30, 20. The Celtics got a tackle. Oh, that way.
That was awful.
Touchdown. The Dolphins win. Unbelievable. Are you kidding me?
Now, Sid Rosenberg.
That is the worst play-by-play team in the National Football League. I know those guys very well, working at 3 different radio stations down in South Florida. 2 former Miami Dolphins, wideout Jimmy Cepolo and tight end Joe Rose. And only they can botch a call like that Miami Miracle a week ago, which got the Dolphins the victory over the Patriots. Hello, everybody. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Welcome back to Sid Sports Sunday, coming to you live this morning as we do most Sundays, 17 floors above Madison Square Garden. This iconic, legendary setting, perfect for a Week 15 of the National Football League. Some big guests stopping by today. The guy that actually, the coach that beat the Giants back in Super Bowl 35 when the Ravens ran roughshod on Kerry Collins and that crew, now a member of the NFL Network team, Brian Billick. He's going to stop by today. And a big week for baseball, obviously, Monday through Thursday of last week. They had the winter meetings at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. The Mets made some moves. We'll talk to Anthony DiComo of MLB.com about the week that was for the New York Mets. Plus, college football with Joe Lisi, the picks on today's game with the great Danny Bianculo, and, of course, fantasy with Brandon Lee. We've got 5 stringers right now waiting for us live at stadiums all across the country for this Week 15, but Week 15 has already started. 3 great games. You did hear part of that audio there in the open. Iron Eagle, my dear friend, CBS Sports, as the Chargers get the win. They come back. They score 15 unanswered. At the end of the game, Mike Williams, a Clemson product, 3 touchdowns, caught the 2-point conversion, beat Kansas City 29-28. What you've got right now are the Chargers and Chiefs tied atop the AFC with records of 11-3. Now, if the season ended today, the Chiefs, due to tiebreakers, would be the 1 seed. Chargers, the 2 seed, but an amazing game. 2 more very good games yesterday, starting here in New Jersey, where the Texans did outlast the Jets 29-22, earning their 10th win of the year. They've now won 9 of their last 10, and the Texans can win the AFC South today if, in fact, the Colts lose in Dallas and the Titans lose in New Jersey to the Giants. But even in a loss, the Jets season is a wasted season. They go 4-10 right now. Todd Bowles is on his way out. But some kind words from Texan coach Bill O'Brien on Darnold's performance, the rookie quarterback, Sam Darnold for the Jets. He said this after the win. Says, Darnold, a great performance. He has a great future in this league. He's a competitor. He didn't do anything tonight that surprised me, but I will say his ability to keep plays alive and his ability to get the ball downfield amazed me. He's a great player. That comes from Texan coach Bill O'Brien, who, by the way, has Deshaun Watson at quarterback. But the Jets, no moral victories. Here's a 2018 version of Vince Lombardi, Todd Bowles.
It's frustrating to lose the ball game. We could have finished it a bunch of different ways, whether it's offense or defense. We didn't finish it. And the penalties cost us at the end, and then the guy made a great play, but it's frustrating to lose the ball game.
All right, there you go. Okay, thank you, Todd. Right. DeAndre Hopkins, what a wide receiver for the Texans. Here is a Jet rookie quarterback who, again, afforded himself very nicely, even in a defeat, Sam Darnold for the Jets after the game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel comfortable getting experience, and I feel like I'm seeing the field a lot better, and I feel like our whole offense is really starting to click a lot better, getting in and out. But it comes down to wins and losses. You know, we want to get out there and win the game. You know, that's the whole point of playing.
That's the difference between Darnold with the Jets. They don't win games, and now a red-hot Baker Mayfield won the Heisman last year, taken number 1 overall by the Cleveland Browns. Don't look now, but the Browns have won 4 out of 5. When was the last time you can say this? The Browns have a chance with a win next week to hit the 500 mark in Week 16 of the NFL. They get the win last night in Denver. They eke it out, beating the Broncos by 1. And once again, here's a red-hot Brown rookie quarterback, Baker Mayfield, after the win.
A win's a win. I'll take it. Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't our best game by any means. Starting with myself, but coming out with a win on the road, it's hard, and we did that.
There you go. So the Browns go to 6-7-1. So once again, 3 very good games already. The Chargers eke out the win Thursday in Kansas City. Houston holds on. That turns out to be a push, by the way. I know lots of guys had the Jets in town yesterday. Texans got the late field goal. That game lands on a 7. But Houston gets the win, and the Browns eke out the victory in Denver against the Broncos last night. Now, today we got 9 games in the 1 o'clock window. Only 2 games. Only 2. In the 4 o'clock window today. So if you get savaged in the 1 o'clock games and want to rebound in the 4 o'clock games, it ain't going to be easy. You got the Seahawks in San Francisco. By the way, just 2 weeks ago, Seattle beat San Francisco by 27 in Seattle. And the game of the day later on this afternoon at 4:25 features Ben Roethlisberger and the ice-cold Steelers hosting the Pats. You got a game tonight, Eagles and Rams, and the Saints in Carolina, Monday Night Football. But we've got 5 stringers at some of the biggest games around the league today. We like to call this Around the League. Around the League brought to you by my dear friend Pete Morgan and the fine folks at Peerless Boilers. Upgrade your boiler today with a 95% efficient Peerless Boiler Combi and start saving big on your heat and hot water bills today. Go to peerlessboilers.com, put in your zip code, and you'll find a friendly dealer near you. Remember, Peerless Boilers, America's best built boilers. All right, where was this in September, right? Isn't that what all those Giant fans are saying after they blew out the Redskins last week? Now the Giants are 5-8. Saquon Barkley, forget about Todd Gurley. Barkley may be the best running back in football. He's certainly the rookie of the year. And the Giants are playing good football. Tennessee, though, they need a win to stay in the playoff race. They are right there at 7-6. So it's a big game on kind of a miserable, rainy, cold day in New Jersey. The 7-6 Titans at the 5-8 New York Football Giants. Here's our good buddy. He's going to host this show next week. WABC's very own Russ Salzberg at MetLife Stadium. Good morning, Russ.
Good morning, Sid. As my late, great, dear friend Yogi Berra would say, as you just pointed out, it ain't over till it's over. And with that thought in mind, the Giants are going to take on the Titans here at a very damp MetLife Stadium, 1 o'clock this afternoon, looking to, indeed, keep their playoff hopes, albeit slim, alive. And for those of you wondering just how the Giants can manage to keep their playoff hopes alive, here's the formula. It's really quite simple. The Panthers, Vikings, Eagles, and Redskins all have to lose 2 of their 3 remaining games, while the Packers and Buccaneers, they each have to lose 1 of their 3 remaining games. Piece of cake, right?
No problem.
Yeah. I almost forgot. The Giants, while all that happens, they also have to win all 3 of their 3 remaining games. Now, as for those Titans today, if the Giants are going to prevail, they're going to have to do so without the services of their superstar wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr., who is going to sit out for the 2nd game in a row with a banged-up quad. As for the Titans on offense, everybody is still talking about running back Derrick Henry's tremendous performance last week against the Jaguars, 238 yards rushing on 17 carries, four touchdowns, one of those going for a mind-blowing 99 yards. But let us not forget Saquon Barkley's electrifying performance himself against the Redskins. 14 carries, 170 yards, 1 touchdown. So the key for the Giants on offense will continue to be Saquon running the ball, which will allow Eli Manning to work the play-action passing game. On defense, slow down Derrick Henry and keep quarterback Marcus Mariota in the pocket, because when Mariota is out of the pocket, that's when he's at his most dangerous. For Sid Sports Sunday, I'm Russ Salzberg. Sid, pal, talk to you later.
All right, Russ, thank you very much. Another big game today. The Dolphins somehow are remaining in this race. They're at 7-6. If the season ended today, they would not make the playoffs. They're on the outside looking in, but they're right in this after the miracle win against the Pats last week. Minnesota at 6-1. They would make the playoffs as a wild card inside the NFC if the season ended today. Big game, lots on the line. U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota. It's the Dolphins at the Vikings. Chris Thomason is standing by from the St. Paul Pioneer Press. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, thanks, Sid. I'm here at U.S. Bank Stadium, and like you said, two teams meet today that need wins down the stretch to make the playoffs. The Vikings have a new offensive coordinator in Kevin Stefanski, who takes over from the fired John DeFilippo. The Vikings are expecting to keep much of their philosophy the same, but don't be surprised if Stefanski throws in a few new wrinkles. And the Dolphins, as you mentioned, are coming off the Miami Miracle in the win over the Patriots. We'll see if they suffer from a post-miracle hangover like the Vikings did last season when they beat New Orleans in the playoffs with the Minnesota Miracle and then were pounded the next week by Philly in the NFC Championship game. It should be an intriguing battle between two teams that don't play very often, and I'm sure the Vikings wouldn't mind some revenge from losing to the Dolphins in Super Bowl VIII. Back to you, Sid.
That's right. Super Bowl VIII, big win for the Dolphins over Minnesota. Those were those Fran Tarkenton teams. They couldn't win one between Kemp and Tarkenton and Bud Grant. The Vikings lost all 4 of those Super Bowl attempts. Thank you for that, Chris. By the way, last look, the Vikings favored by 7.5 at home over Miami. More playoff implications. The Bears can win the NFC North for the first time since 2010 with a home win today against the Packers. Now, the Packers fired their head coach, Mike McCarthy, a couple of weeks ago. Aaron Rodgers came out last week and had a huge game. The Packers are 5-7-1. The Bears are 9-4. Big game at Soldier Field today. Bears right now a 5.5-point favorite. Here's Nicholas Mariano from Bleacher Report at Soldier Field in Chicago. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Sid. The Bears have a chance, like you said, to win the NFC North for the first time since 2010. It hasn't happened in 8 years, and the Bears players know this. The defenders there are talking about Aaron Rodgers and the opportunity to just take him down for the first time in a very long time. So with this opportunity, the Bears are coming out pumped, and it's at Soldier Field, like you said, and it's going to be 45 degrees, not your typical December game, but the Bears know the implications of being able to clinch the NFC North, and that would be huge for this fan base and for the city of Chicago. So back to Sid.
All right, thank you very much. There you have it, Bears hosting the Packers. This is also a huge game today. The Indianapolis Colts got a huge win last week. They beat the Texans to improve to 7-6. They're like Miami and Tennessee right now, behind Baltimore on the outside looking in. But they're going to host one of the hottest teams in football, and that is the Dallas Cowboys, now at 8-5, winners of 5 in a row since getting Amari Cooper from the Oakland Raiders. The Colts hosting the Cowboys. Joel Erickson, the Indianapolis Star, is at Lucas Oil Stadium. Sharp money today. All the big pickers, even the big Vegas contest, all on the Colts. Dallas says, slow down. It's the Colts hosting the Cowboys. Good morning, Joel.
Thanks, Sid. I'm here at Lucas Oil Stadium, where later today the Colts take on the Cowboys in a game with huge playoff implications. Weather shouldn't be a factor. Roofs can be closed as it usually is here in Indianapolis. It's been raining anyway. But the big question, obviously, is whether or not T.Y. Hilton's going to play. Hilton's been on a tear, 33 catches in his last 4 games, but he's been battling an ankle injury all week. And if he can't go, that'll be a big problem for the Colts pass offense. We won't know whether or not he's going to play until later. He's going to test it out today. It's supposed to be a game-time decision. As far as the Cowboys go, Zach Martin is out. So a big question will be whether or not a Colts run defense that has been good lately can stop Ezekiel Elliott, who's got 400-yard games in his last 5. Colts are still looking for an AFC wildcard berth. Cowboys on the way to an NFC East title. This is Joel A. Erickson from the Indianapolis Star. Back to you, Sid.
Thank you. Last look, by the way, the Cowboys favored by a field goal in this game. The Colts favored by a field goal at home over Dallas. And this is the big one today, folks. How many great matchups between Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger have we seen? The Steelers are ice cold. They are still atop their division, of course, at 7-5-1, a half game better than the 7-6 Baltimore Ravens. But man, do the Steelers need a win. Some ugly losses the last couple of weeks. And of course, the Pats at 9-4, they're in very good position, 2 games better than Miami to win the AFC East. But they come off a disastrous loss on the last play of the game at the hands of the Miami Dolphins. The Pats 9-4 in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field for the 7-5-1 Steelers. Again, 2 first-place teams, and we've got Rich Walsh, KDKA in Pittsburgh, standing by at Heinz Field. Good morning, Rich.
Good morning, Sid. And ice cold is a great way to describe the Steelers right now. They've been in a downward spiral lately, finding ways to lose the last 3 games. They are in first place in AFC North, like you mentioned. I've been in the locker room all week, and they keep saying it's not time to push the panic button, but it doesn't feel that way. I think they need to push it, especially with the Patriots here. Belichick, Brady have had their number over the years. Brady's 7-1 all-time against the Steelers. That 7th win is still a controversial one, still something that everyone here wants to talk about after that Jesse James no-catch from last year. So the Steelers have something to prove against this team. And this Steelers team needs to win this game. They're a home underdog, which doesn't happen too often. They won't have James Conner. He'll be out with an ankle injury. The run game has been an issue with this team. Ben Roethlisberger has been able to throw it all over the field lately, but that hasn't been enough. He will get Eli Rogers back, which could help this passing game, especially in the middle, coming out of the slot. And on defense, Artie Burns, he's back in the starting lineup after being benched the last few weeks. They know something has to change on defense, especially when you're facing Brady and Gronk, and add the fact that they couldn't stop this Raiders offense. The Pats haven't been great on the road, which is a good thing for the Steelers. All their losses have come away from Foxborough. I could see a high-scoring one here tonight. It's raining right now in Pittsburgh. It's supposed to clear up by 4:25 kickoff at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. I'm Rich Walsh. Back to you, Sid.
Thank you, Rich. Rich is right, by the way. The total for that game is 54, and Rich thinks a lot of points at Heinz Field later on today. I tend to agree, and the Steelers are, in fact, a 2.5-point home dog to Tom Brady and the Pats. Big show coming up. We'll do fantasy football with Brandon Lee coming up next. We'll talk to Super Bowl winning head coach Brian Billick from the NFL Network after that. Anthony DiComo, MLB.com, talking New York Mets next hour. We'll do college football with Joe Lisi. We'll take another trip around the league. And, of course, the picks with the red-hot Danny Bianculo. Check out the website today. Danny B. What was the website? I just screwed it up. Danny B. Wins. Thank you very much. Okay. We'll take a short break. When we get back, we'll talk football, fantasy football with Brandon Lee on the Sid Sports Sunday. We're coming right back.
And you won't just begun. And so this is Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome back to Sid Sports Sunday. The holiday season is here. Christmas just less than 2 weeks away, so stop being a prick, will you? God. New Year's Eve right around the corner, 2019 right around the corner. This is it, as Bernie says every morning on the best morning show in not just New York City, but the country, the Bernie and Sid in the morning show. These are the good times, right, folks? And certainly today, week 15 of the NFL, already 3 great games in the books and a bunch of big action coming your way today. 12 games, of course, today, with a bunch in the 1 o'clock hour. We put this time aside every Sunday for our fantasy football report. Brandon Marion Lee does a great job. Check out her work, NFL.com, The Athletic, Sportsline, and Fantasy Alarm. And I recommend you follow her on Twitter, too. She's got great fantasy stuff on there at Brandon, her FFB. Let's talk some fantasy football. Good morning, Brandon.
Good morning.
Welcome back. Look, the Giants today hosting Tennessee. Barkley's been terrific. Eli's been okay. But no Odell Beckham Jr. today. That's certainly going to affect the quarterback's play. So it's a 2-part question. A, do you sit Eli Manning against Tennessee today? And B, I guess you got to hope that Shepard comes up big for the Giants, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not playing Eli Manning unless I have just a dire situation, frankly. The Tennessee defense is pretty tough against quarterbacks. The best matchup, actually, is for wide receivers. So Sterling Shepard's definitely the go-to guy. Although I think the volume will be split between him and Evan Engram in terms of anyone other than Saquon Barkley, who obviously always a stud.
Right. Eagles at the Rams tonight, nearly a 2-touchdown underdog. Their season not really over yet, believe it or not, but their quarterback is out, Carson Wentz. That means Nick Foles, who won the Super Bowl for the Eagles last year and will be a free agent next year, is the starting quarterback again. How scary is that? Nick Foles against the Rams later on tonight.
Yeah, I don't love it. That's for sure. You don't ever sit Zach Ertz. You don't get cute there. He's definitely the guy. He'll have volume, so especially if you're in a PPR league, he'll have a high floor. Everyone else is a little dicey, though, and I do not like this Golden Tate experience. Since they brought him in, they've really tried to force him into the game plan. It has not worked out for them, and now with Nick Foles there, the whole wide receiver situation is a no-go for me.
All right, Brandon, one of the marquee matchups today features the Cowboys in Indy taking on the Colts. Amari Cooper has been red hot. The Cowboys have been red hot. They've won 5 straight. Since Amari's gone to Dallas, 40 catches, 642 yards, over 16 yards a catch, 6 touchdowns, and last week had 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and overtime. He has been money. What about him today in Indy against the Colts?
Yeah, he's nuts. This is a quote-unquote bad matchup in terms of points allowed, in terms of fantasy. But you know what? I don't care. There is no bad matchup, and a guy is getting the kind of volume and has the type of efficiency that Amari Cooper's had since the trade. You know what? Sometimes you just need to change where you're at, and that's a big life motto there. Man, Amari Cooper is living that life.
Well, anybody who grew in trade seems to be doing very well. Amari Cooper in Dallas, Khalil Mack in Chicago. Seems to be working out for all those guys. Hey, the Seahawks need a win today. Now, the last time they played San Francisco, just 2 weeks ago, they beat them by 27 points and rolled up 43 on the day. With that said, Doug Baldwin questionable today. What does that mean for Russell Wilson? Start or sit?
I'm starting Russell Wilson. San Francisco is not a good defense, everybody. Don't worry about it. Everyone saw him kind of collapse in prime time, have his one really bad game of the season, and everyone's like, oh, no, it's terrible. And San Francisco gives up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Russell Wilson was scoring 18 or more fantasy points per game every single week from week 5 up until last week. I'm going back to that well, and I feel great about it. And always Tyler Lockett.
All right, 2 more. We'll let you run Brandon Lee. Once again, follow her on Twitter at Brandon Her FFB. Let's talk about the Vikings are hosting the Dolphins. Big game for both teams. Viking running back Dalvin Cook against the Dolphin run defense that is leaky, to say the least. What about the prospects of starting Cook for Minnesota today?
Yeah, must start. I mean, that's how you win games against Miami is you run. And they just got rid of their offensive coaching staff to do that. They want to run. So they're going to get back to that. But to be honest with you, Dalvin Cook has definitely disappointed in terms of his play this year. But hopefully they're going to set him up for success. And, man, there's nothing that can make you more successful than going up against that Miami run view.
It's always silly asking this question. Do I start Luck against Dallas? And even though Dallas is a very solid defense, Luck is great. You're going to start him. This is even sillier with Brady and Roethlisberger, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I expect a lot of points, a lot of yardage, all that good stuff tonight for fantasy players who most, by the way, are in the playoffs right now. I'm going to start them both. Brady against Pittsburgh, Roethlisberger against the Pats later on tonight. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. You always start Roethlisberger at home. You always start Brady when he needs to get into the playoffs. And right now, with Kansas City losing, they want to have the home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So they are going to try to rock it tonight against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've got to hold on. So I think this is going to be a huge game. I'm starting everyone I possibly can from this matchup.
Yeah, you're right about that. The Chiefs 11 wins. The Chargers 11 wins. The Texans got win number 10 yesterday. The Pats have a chance to get win number 10 with a victory in Pittsburgh later on today. Let's close it with this, Brandon. Who is your sleeper of the week?
If you're desperate at tight end, everyone, I'm going to Old Man River, Mr. Vernon Davis. Washington has basically no pass catchers. Jordan Reed officially ruled out. Vernon Davis has been very involved with the game plan over the last 3 weeks. He has become a favorite target over there, mostly because there are no other ones. So he is my sleeper of the week.
Yeah, but Mark Sanchez has to get him the football.
Well, it's Mr. Johnson now. So
that's right. You're right. It's Johnson.
Yeah, they've had 4 different dudes. I mean, it's hard to keep track. I think that's the reason why, though, because the tight end is such an easy little dump off, and that's what I like. It's the usage.
You talk about 4 different quarterbacks: Alex Smith, Colt McCoy, Sanchez, now Johnson. Alex Smith just got out of the hospital. He had multiple leg surgeries. He had infections. So think about that. He got hurt many, many weeks ago. Such a gruesome injury. He just got out of the hospital. Anyway, Brandon, great job. Thank you so much. I'll be off next week for Christmas and New Year, so we'll talk before 2019. Want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and thanks for all the great work. Enjoy the football today.
Thanks, Sid. You too.
You got it. Brandon Lee. She's great, and you can check out her work each and every day. NFL.com, The Athletic, Sportsline, Fantasy Alarm, and on Twitter at Brandon, her FFB. Many years ago, I was hosting the morning show at WNEW alongside a guy named Craig Horton. We were partners. And Super Bowl 35 was in Tampa, and the Ravens killed my Giants. The head coach of the Ravens that day, Brian Billick, now a big-time analyst for the NFL Network. We take a look at all of the National Football League with Super Bowl winning head coach Brian Billick on Sid Sports Sunday right after these words.
Merry Christmas, America. Merry Christmas, America.
Christmas.
So one of the first Super Bowls I ever covered was back 35 back in 2000. Kind of a funny story for New Yorkers. My co-host at the time was Craig Horton. We know what's going on with Craig ever since. But Craig and I made our way to Tampa. And my Kerry Collins-led New York Football Giants, my very good friend Jim Fossil, took on the Baltimore Ravens, and they got shellacked by Brian Billick's Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl. I got to know Brian a bit after that over the years, and I distinctly remember, in fact, meeting Brian one year on Radio Row. He was wearing a green suit, and he looked great. And then I spent many years down in Miami, about 10 years to be honest. And after Brian was done in Baltimore, it seemed like every year the Dolphins were looking for a coach, and Billick's name would come up in conversation. But today he's doing great. He's actually at the NFL Network. Just had a doubleheader yesterday with the Jets and the Texans and the Browns and the Broncos. Brian, of course, an NFL analyst at the network. Follow him on Twitter at Coach Billick. Here he is, my good friend, football extraordinaire, Brian Billick. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning to you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Look, I want to go back a little bit to your career. Those years in the 90s, Brian, before you became the head coach of the Ravens, and you worked for Dennis Green's Minnesota Vikings. People don't realize this, but there were 4 different quarterbacks during that era. 4. You had Brad Johnson, you had Jeff George, you had Randall Cunningham, you had Dante Culpepper, and all of those quarterbacks made the playoffs. But I guess, Brian, when you've got a threesome of Jake Reed, Randy Moss, and Chris Carter on the outside, it does make a quarterback's life easy, yes?
Yeah, that was a special group, and then when you have Robert Smith behind you in the backfield, Andrew Glover at tight end, yeah, and Randall Cunningham or Randall McDaniel blocking for you in the offensive line. That's a pretty good group to surround yourself with. It was a very special group. That group of receivers in particular, it gave you an answer for whatever the defense wanted to do.
I look back, and I know since then the Broncos and Pats have broken some of those records, but all those great years, Brian, that Randall had in Philadelphia, believe me, as a Giant fan, I saw them up close and personal. But that one year in Minnesota, and of course we know that Gary Anderson missed the kick, so you guys did not get to the Super Bowl. The Falcons got there instead. But that one year Randall had for you guys in Minnesota, that was about as good as any quarterback has ever had.
Yeah, it was a joy to be with Randall at that point. And what was interesting is, early on, obviously, as people were playing us, along with all that other talent we had, they were so focused on Randall running the ball. They would spy guys and adjust their rush. Randall was so focused on wanting to play the quarterback from the quarterback position, really didn't pull the ball down and run. In fact, we got to the point later in the year where we kind of told Randall, look, if you see it, you could actually go and run with the ball if you want, because that added a whole other weapon for us. But he was so focused on wanting to show people that he could be a quarterback that won from the pocket. He was outstanding on third down, his ability to get the vertical play. It was just a joy to be around Randall at that time.
Yeah, I got to know Denny pretty good, too, and, of course, he passed away, and if you're a football fan, got to know Dennis Green. He really was a lovely guy. I felt bad, Brian, that he's kind of been reduced to that soundbite after the game, the Cardinals and Bears, I guess. We are what they thought, whatever that thing is, because, truth be told, Dennis Green was a wonderful coach, and I know you were on there for about 7 years. Everybody around Denny really loved the guy.
Oh, no, absolutely. I was around Denny for a good deal. I was with him at Stanford, then obviously with him for 9 years in Minnesota. And had known Denny even back in our early years when we were both on Bill Walsh's staff in Minnesota, or with the San Francisco 49ers. That's right. And Denny was just if there's one mentor I need to point to say this is the guy that had the biggest impact on my career. And you're right, on top of it all, was just an outstanding guy. He was a great guy to coach for. He lets you coach, but was just as good a man and cared about you and your family and about your career and moving forward. His fingerprints are all over whatever successes I've had in my career.
And you had many. You went to Baltimore. They'd never had a winning season. You were the second coach after Marcia Broda. The year one you get there, and already, Brian, they go 8-8. The first time they did not have a losing season. And very early in your stay with the Ravens, 12-win season and a Super Bowl win over my Giants. I got to tell you, though, it was funny watching the transformation, Brian, because you left Minnesota as this offensive guru, this genius who put together all those great scoring offenses for Minnesota. You went to Baltimore, and your team was led by Ray Lewis, your middle linebacker. So you transformed very nicely from an offensive coordinator to a winning head coach led by defense.
Well, it didn't take long to size up when you saw the defensive personnel we had led by a Ray Lewis. And we had Peter Boulware, Mike McCrary coming off the edge. We had Sam Adams, Tony Saragusa in the middle, Rod Woodson on the back end. That was such a special group, and it didn't take long for me to recognize, oh, boy, this group is really special. Maybe we ought to play to their strengths. And so we developed a profile offensively where we ran the ball real well. We didn't turn the ball over. And at that time, playing that kind of great defense and running the ball, not turning it over, win a lot of games.
No question. You had Jamal Lewis. He was a beast, and Trent Dilfer was the quarterback in that Super Bowl. By the way, that was not defensive holding. Brian, I want to piss you off here years later, but that call against Hamilton was a bogus call, a straight hand, whatever.
Well, I always and I hear that all the time when I'm in New York, and I agree with people. I go, you're absolutely right. It shouldn't have been called. It should have been a touchdown.
Right.
And you'd have lost 34-14 instead of 34-7.
No, you're right. You were the much better team that day. There's no question about it. One last thing on your career. We'll get to modern-day football. You did have, later on in Baltimore, first of all, you hired Fossil, which was very, very nice after the Super Bowl loss. But you did have Steve McNair there. And, I was at that Super Bowl in Atlanta in 1999. Maybe you were there too, Brian, when the Titans fell 1 yard short when Mike Jones tackled Dyson at the 1 yard line, and the Rams won that first Super Bowl for Vermeil and Kurt Warner. And him and Eddie George were so terrific and just a magnificent player. He's one of the real tragedies, the way he was killed, obviously, in the last 40, 50 years in the NFL. And you had him. What kind of guy was Steve McNair?
We had Steve late in his career, and it was a joy to be around him and coach. The players responded to him. He just had a certain joy about him, the way people responded to him. He enjoyed life, loved life. It was just so calm in any situation. And obviously, it's a great player for us that year. We went 13-3. What he was able to see and do on a football field, we had not had that presence at quarterback since I had been in Baltimore. But it was such a joy to watch him be around the players and the way the players would respond to him and to his leadership.
Brian Billick, of course, a terrific NFL Network analyst, really great, terrific guy, too. Follow him on Twitter at Coach Billick. So Week 15 starts with this classic matchup, Brian, in Kansas City. And it's funny, I'm going to tell you this. I'm a very good friend of Chuck Todd, host of Meet the Press, NBC, coming up today. And Chuck Todd actually asked me, true story, who do you like tonight on Thursday? I said, something tells me the Chargers are going to win. When they won in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, they proved to me they can win a big game on the road. And I got to tell you, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, that same trade, I'm not sure Rivers is not the best of the three. And I want him to win a big game. Sure enough, the Chargers go out there. They beat the Chiefs on Thursday night. Didn't surprise me. Did it surprise you? Or do you think, like me, that the Chargers may be the most dangerous wild card team in years?
Yeah, what a great game that was. What a phenomenal game for that to unfold the way it did in Kansas City. And you're right. To me, winning on the road in the NFL is one of the most significant things, particularly when you have these good teams that face one another. And I think that absolutely a huge signature game for Phillip Rivers and the San Diego Chargers. Maybe the most complete team in terms of what they're doing defensively. Obviously with Phillip Rivers, to do that without Keenan Allen, to do it without Melvin Gordon, I think was spectacular to go on the road and do what they did. Phillip Rivers, I agree. He's such an unorthodox quarterback. When he came out, I remember scouting Phillip Rivers. I couldn't buy into his throwing action. It was just unique. Seemed like he pushed the ball. He didn't have the fluid mechanics, and yet here he sits, 16, 18 years later. I think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Obviously, a lot of people say, well, you got to get into the Super Bowl, but it's exciting that he's finally on a team that is surrounded around him, that can be that good, and the way San Diego is playing right now, just a spectacular game. For them to come back against Kansas City, in Kansas City, down those 14 points, and particularly at the end to that drive, going forward on 2 points, it was good. It was great for San Diego. It was good for the NFL. It's good for football.
Agreed. By the way, did that without Melvin Gordon, still banged up. Did that without Keenan Allen. He had a hip pointer. He was out of the game. And it did show a lot of guts by Anthony Lynn to go for the 2. And as you say, Brian Billick, the Chargers did get the win. And I remember years ago when the Dallas Cowboys made that Herschel Walker trade, Brian, and it paved the way for many years of success. So guys like Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and maybe Aikman, I don't even know at the end who ended up in Dallas because of the Herschel Walker trade. Well, it looks like Dallas has made another trade. This time they get a guy that has made them a completely different team, and that is fleecing John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders for Amari Cooper. The last 5 weeks, the Dallas Cowboys are a completely different team. Are they ready, Brian Billick, to contend with the Rams? I know they've already beaten New Orleans, but are they that type of team that you could consider a possibility to win the NFC?
Oh, certainly when you look at the game they had against New Orleans, you have to consider the fact that they are good enough defensively and to run the ball. And when the Amari Cooper trade was made, I liked Amari Cooper. I didn't think he was a dominant number one. I'm not sure that he still is a dominant number one, but you're exactly right. What he does for that defense, I did a clip on our show Playbook that I do on the NFL Network over the last 5 weeks, just to see the way the offense has expanded and the comfort zone with which Dak Prescott plays. The other day, he threw it better than 50 times, and he has the third highest completion percentage in a 50-throw game since the Super Bowl era.
Wow.
And you would have never thought that they would even have attempted that or have been capable of that before Amari Cooper got there. That last missing piece for them to go with what is really an outstanding defense and obviously one of the better running games. But Dak Prescott, everything about him, his completion percentage, third down, total yards, everything about it with the presence of Amari Cooper, it's undeniable the impact that he's had.
Let me stick in the NFC here. I want to go to the Bears. They're going to host Aaron Rodgers and the Packers later on today. They go to 9-4. They played a couple of games without Trubisky. He's back now. And talking about another great trade, thanks to John Gruden, Khalil Mack goes to Chicago. He's building champions all over the league, by the way, John Gruden. God bless him, Brian. But this Bears team, are you ready to put them in that same class? Or even though they've got 9 wins, are they kind of a notch below? By the way, with a win over Green Bay, they will clinch that division.
Yeah, they are a factor, and their win, obviously, the big win they had against the Rams, all but at home. And the way they did it, keeping the Rams to the season low and to 4 turnovers, that's the big thing. Their ability to get turnovers, and I think that's really as you measure good defenses. Of course, I was fortunate enough to be around the great defenses we had in Baltimore. Yep. I think we have to judge defenses differently today. It's not just total yards and red zone and third down and all those key analytics that you look at to measure what a really good defense is. But I think the ability for turnovers, because offenses are so wide open, because the rules with the quarterback and defensive receivers down the field and the inability to make some of the hits that you used to make, it's so obviously the pendulum has swung so much to the offensive side. I think the way we judge defenses needs to change a little bit, and it is all about turnovers. And the Bears, I believe, lead the league in turnovers.
They do. Brian Billick, NFL Network. A couple more. We'll let you run here on this Week 15 football Sunday. 5 teams right now, Brian, vying for that 6th seed in the AFC. Ravens, Colts, Dolphins, a shocker to me, and Tennessee all at 7-6, and the Broncos one back at 6-7. They're one of those 5 teams. The Colts come off a very big win over Houston, Miami, that crazy win over the Pats. Baltimore played Kansas City, very tough in that loss. Any one of those 5 teams that you think may be a step better than the rest?
Boy, it's so hard to pick one because they all have, someone on their schedule. The Ravens have got to play San Diego. In San Diego, that's going to be a tough one for them. Indianapolis has been a great story, boy, showing what it can do for your team to create a protection scheme and put people in place to protect a guy like Andrew Luck. And the story, they're playing much better on defense. Miami's kind of hiding in the weeds back there. I don't know if they can count on getting those miraculous plays at the end of the game to enough to get them into the playoffs. Yeah. But it's going to be interesting, and Baltimore has a real chance. Because I think Pittsburgh's very vulnerable, and Pittsburgh has to then get drawn into that group as to can they hold on to that 6th spot if indeed they stumble a little bit and Baltimore's able to beat L.A. in L.A. with the Chargers. They finish up against Cincinnati. They've got a Tampa game at home this week that could be a little dicey. You never know.
Yep.
But they could all of a sudden find themselves atop the NFC or the AFC North. And Pittsburgh now might find itself indeed out of the playoffs.
Well, last one locally here, Tennessee. They're one of those 5 teams. They're 7-6, and they had that great comeback win against the Jets a couple of weeks ago. I love Mike Vrabel, by the way, as a young coach, much like Frank Reich, by the way, in Indianapolis. They've got the Giants here this afternoon, and if they can get by the Giants and get to 8-6, do you think Tennessee a legitimate shot, or again Tennessee kind of a rung below Baltimore and the Colts?
I think they do have a shot again because I think their schedule is fairly favorable that way. Obviously, it's about Marcus Mariota and him stepping up. I like Marcus Mariota. I think he's got a huge future. He's got to start playing big in those big games, and certainly these last couple of games, they certainly can be a factor.
Well, Brian, listen, it's always great to talk to you. You're a wonderful guest and a terrific guy. You wouldn't even remember all the years when I first started in this business. You'd be on Radio Row with the Super Bowls and pay attention to me. I never forgot that. So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and continued success at the NFL Network, pal. Thank you so much.
To you as well.
Take care. Brian Billick, and you can check him out on Twitter, at Coach Billick. Check him out on the NFL Network. A few short messages back on Sid Sports Sunday right after these words. That big game in Indy today between the Cowboys and Colts getting a lot of play, of course. So many Dallas Cowboy fans, front runners here in New York. You won't make me sick, by the way, but they will win the NFC East if they win that game today. Even if they lose, if the Redskins lose to the Jaguars and the Eagles lose to the Rams, the Cowboys will still win the NFC East today. So Dallas Cowboys, red hot, 5 straight wins here since the Amari Cooper deal, looking very, very good. We want to do this. This is my last show. Next week I won't be here. Russ Salzberg will fill in. It's the only show I'm going to miss. It's a holiday, and I'm getting the hell out of here. But we're in the giving mood today, me and Bruce and Gunzy. So you can't see me, but as I'm hosting this show, I'm wearing this very, very cool Sid Sports Sunday long sleeve tee. You've seen pictures the last couple of weeks with the whole cast wearing these, and even Bernie and Jill on the morning show. People love this shirt, and we're going to give them away right now. Got about 5 left. Gunzy, how are we giving away these long sleeve tees today? Say it on the air, moron. You're talking in my ear. I can't hear anything
there we
anyway.
Go. What's up, baby?
There you go.
What's up, America?
How do you want to give it away?
Have them call me.
No, your cell phone? What do you mean call you?
What's the number?
You don't know the number. Ay.
What's it?
Come on, Guns.
Say one for your morning show.
Yeah, but you're the producer. You got to know these things. 1-800-848-WABC.
That's why you're the host, baby.
1-800-848-9222. Very simple. Just call in. Tell us you love Sid Sports Sunday. Tell us you love Bernie and Sid in the morning. Tell us you hate it. We don't even care. We got shirts. We want to give them away because it's Christmas. And you're going to look really good in this shirt. All of you will. So just call Guns right now, and you got a free shirt coming your way. We will take a short break. When we get back, a very exciting 10 o'clock hour coming your way. We just finished up the winter baseball meetings in Las Vegas. Mets did a whole bunch of stuff. We'll talk to Anthony DeComo, MLB.com, about that. Danny Bianculo with the picks. He's going to stop by. We're going to go back to the Stringers one more time. The phone lines have all lit up, by the way, every single phone line. Haven't seen that in a long time. All 7 lines lit up like a Christmas tree. So either you guys really love me or you're a bunch of cheap bastards and want free stuff. Either way, hour 2 of Sid Sports Sunday coming right at you.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the
Hold it now, wait, hold it. That's played out.
Huge Week 15, hour number 2 of Sid Sports Sunday, once again coming to you live, 17 floors above Madison Square Garden. So many games today with big playoff implications. The Dolphins at the Vikings, a big one. Cowboys, they've won 5 straight. Colts, they've won 6 out of 7. That is a big game today. The Packers at the Bears. The Bears can win the NFC North today. The Titans at the Giants. Titans are going to stay alive in that AFC wildcard race. The big one this afternoon, Brady and the Pats in Pittsburgh. The Steelers losing to Denver and Oakland the last 2 weeks. Seahawks at the Niners, and even tonight, Eagles at the Rams. So all big games. And, of course, you guys like to have some fun with these games. Maybe make an investment, if you will. And if you're looking to do that, there is nobody better than my pal Danny Bianculo. The website dbwins.com is just just fantastic. Today's picks and spreads analysis is sponsored by DBWins.com. DBWins.com, picking winners for 4 decades and betting professionally for 35 years, all at DBWins.com.
This segment is sponsored by DBWins.com.
Let's get right to it. Danny B has been great on this show. In fact, the highest percentage of people saying in the 2-hour Sid Sports Sunday show, this is their favorite segment, not only because Danny B makes some money, but they kind of like this guy, like I do. So with that said, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. How we doing, Danny?
I'm doing good, Sid, man. It's great. I'm sorry I can't be there. I'm under the flu here. I got the flu last week, and I can't shake the stuff.
Well, you see, I'm not going to get it. You know, it's funny. I never get the flu shot. I'm against it because people have told me for years, you know, the flu shot brings on symptoms. You're going to get sick. Make a long story short, I'm going this Wednesday to Maimonides Hospital in Brooklyn, and I'm handing out toys to very sick children, including children with cancer. But the only way I can do that, they said, is if I got the flu shot. So I never got one, but I got it last Monday anyway. There were no side effects. I feel great. Did you get the flu shot?
No, I don't believe in that.
All right, well, you know, don't believe in it, but you're sick today, so how does that make sense?
I don't know, but the bottom line is I don't like shooting anything in my system, Sid. But what time are you going to the hospital next week? Because I want to bring something into the studio Wednesday to give to the kids. What time are you leaving?
I think we're leaving, me and Craig Schwab and Leslie Slender and Jimmy in Corvée. I think we're leaving about 10:30, and I'll be at the hospital from noon to 2, and I can't wait to do it. So
I don't get into about 12 o'clock myself, but I wanted to bring some gifts to give to the kids.
What are you going to give them, like a signed Mookie Wilson poster?
Behind the bag, and yes, there will be a Game 6. Game 7, actually.
Nobody has more memorabilia. My office here on the 17th floor at WABC, and Guns, you could attest to this. We got stuff everywhere, all courtesy of Danny B, who's a sweetheart. Let's get to it, though, Danny. You've been terrific on this show, really riding like a 10-week high. Huge games today, big playoff implications, money on the line. Where do we start, Danny B?
Well, I'm going to start with Cincinnati. Cincinnati -3 playing Oakland. Oakland coming off of a nice win last weekend. Not today. I'm going with Cincinnati minus the small number. You know, at home, anything 3 or less, a decent team. Although Cincinnati is struggling, I like the Bengals today, minus the 3.
Now, Driscoll is still playing quarterback, right? Not Andy Dalton for the Bengals?
I can play quarterback and beat Oakland today.
I don't know.
I'm sick, and I busted my hip last night. I slipped on a puddle.
Oh, my God. Look at you. What a mess. All right, so
you know what? I am a mess today. My wife is in Pennsylvania for the weekend with the kids. You can't leave a man alone.
Why not?
Well, he gets into trouble.
Well, yeah, you get into trouble, right? But you're too old for that. Maybe 20 years ago.
Every time you say 40 decades or 40 years, it makes me feel old.
Yeah, well, you are old. And again, you're hurting your hip.
I look good. I look good, though.
No, you do look great, but only old people hurt their hip. That's such a
hey, you know what they say? Once you lose your hip, you're done.
No, I know.
When the hip goes, I might have like a couple of years left, so let's take advantage of these games.
Although I do remember talking about the Bengals. You like the Bengals over the Raiders. A very young Bo Jackson had to retire from professional sports because of his hip. All right, Bengals over the Raiders. Danny B, DBWins.com.
You remember that. I know earlier. You don't think I don't listen. It was Danny B Sports.
Oh, I had a big brain fart.
You know my wife's name. You know my kid's name.
I do.
You know my Social Security number, but you don't know my website.
DBWins.com.
There you go, my man.
Talking about the website, though, for folks, you're going to give them a couple more picks out here for free today, but you always save the 5-star picks for the phone line. So, yes, DBWins.com, that's the website. What is the bat number to get the 5-star Danny B picks?
Well, if you want the best of the best, I got Dallas and the Colts. I got New England, Pittsburgh. You can go to the website, or I'm going to do one better. You can text me. I'm going to be bold today. Ready? My cell phone number, Sid, 239-898-8379. You contact that number. You can text me. I'll text you the winners right back to you.
You're crazy, man. You're going to get some weirdos.
I'm out of my mind.
Give that number one more time.
239. It's a Florida number. You remember that. 239-898-8379. Just text me. I'll get you those winners. Listen, it's the holidays. I'm excited here. I want everybody to make money.
All right. Well, again, you like the Bengals minus the small line at home against the Oakland Raiders. On Sid Sports Sunday, Danny B, what's pick number 2?
Well, I'm going to go with a couple of teasers. Ready? And the Giants, now they can win outright. You know, it's plus 1.5. I like the Giants, but I'm going to tease them to plus 8.5, okay? I think the Giants are going to win today, but I'm going to put out the safety net. Giants in a teaser plus 8.5 to the Packers plus 12.5. Can't go wrong. Rodgers is lights out against the Bears. Yeah, they're not playing great this year. They got rid of their coach, but what did they do last week? They showed up. So I like the Packers plus 12.5 to the Giants plus 8.5.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. The Bears are a 9-win team. The Packers a 5-win team. The Bears can win the NFC North. They're at home. All that excitement. Wouldn't surprise me if the Packers win that game outright without the.
Yeah, that's a possibility. But I'm throwing out the little safety net. The Giants plus 8.5 to the Packers plus 12.5 set.
All right, I like that teaser very much. That is 2 picks in the hopper. Here comes pick number 3, dbwins.com. Take it away, Danny Bianculo.
Well, I'm going to go over to the Philly and the Rams game. You know, Wentz is questionable. Foles is probably going to quarterback today. I like Philly plus 20 to over 45. How do you not take 20 points in an NFL game?
Well, I mean, the Rams are pretty good.
Rams. I like Philly plus 20 to over 45. I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but I see this like a 10-point game, Rams way. Philadelphia plus 20 to over 45, Sid.
All right, 3 picks in. Bengals minus the points at home against the Raiders. 2-team teaser with the Giants and Packers as big underdogs. Another teaser with the Eagles as nearly a 3-touchdown underdog against the Rams tonight and the over. Give me the website again and give me that cell phone number again for the folks that want the picks on Colts, Cowboys, and Patriots, Steelers.
Well, I want you to give it out to see if you remember it.
No chance. I don't even know. You know what's funny? Danielle said to me yesterday, she said, if the name doesn't pop up on your phone, do you know the number? And I swear to you, outside my wife and my 2 kids, I don't know anybody's phone number. Anybody's.
Well, it's dbwins.com. And I've had several name changes over the year with the website. It was Danny B Sports, but it's dbwins.com. Very easy to remember. The cell phone, and I'm probably crazy doing this, but it's 239-898-8379. I got Dallas Colts, New England, Pittsburgh, and I still have one more play for tomorrow night. Saints in Carolina, I like this game to go over the number. Over 49.5, said tomorrow night.
Oh, that went down. It was like 51 earlier in the week.
Yeah. I like the over. You know, a lot of you said earlier in the show, don't think I don't listen to the show. I do. I love you. You're the best. Honestly, you guys kill it. I love it. The Bernie and Sid show, your show on Sundays, it's great.
Thank you.
But everybody's betting the Colts today. I'll let you know who I like. New England, Pittsburgh, it's a big game.
I'll let you know who I like. You've got the Dallas Cowboys star tattooed on your ass. I know exactly who you like.
No, the only thing that's on my right now is a bruise for me falling last night.
Fair enough.
There's my cell phone. They're calling me already, Sid, but I can't get to it.
No, just wait 2 more minutes. Some exciting news here for Danny B. And I hear the phone ringing in the background. You guys do love Danny B. And Danny's
done don't they? They love
yes.
me. You know what? Next week I make my debut show, 6 o'clock next Saturday. And I'm bringing in the guy who made the biggest bet ever in New Jersey on opening day at Mammoth Park.
Oh, I know that guy. Okay, great. So your show starts. I was about to promote that, but you took it away, which was good. Next Saturday night, is that the 22nd?
That would be the 22nd. You're going to be in Boca Raton sunning yourself.
I won't be. But
yeah,
no,
you will.
No.
And I'm going to be here freezing, and it's been cold. And listen, I admire you for that. I wish you were with me, though, but I understand. It's the holidays. You're with your family. But, yeah, next Saturday at 6 o'clock, it's my debut show. I'm excited. And I promise not to let anybody down.
Well, I'll say this, and people need to know this because they hear the NFL segment every Sunday. We've only got 2 weeks of regular season football left, and a month and a half from now, Super Bowl will be over in Georgia. But why Danny is getting his own show and why DB Wins is a great site, above and beyond the NFL. For example, I know you had the Lakers winning big in Charlotte last night. I know you had the Rockets winning big last night in Memphis. You got all these football bowl games coming up. I know you had Fresno State yesterday over Arizona State. So big college basketball. I know you had North Carolina taking out Gonzaga at home yesterday. All these sports, all these games, you get all this info above and beyond the National Football League at dbwins.com.
You know what's it? It's hard to believe. It's week 15 already. It's winding down. I think out of the 14 weeks, I made money all but 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks, I stunk.
Yes.
I stunk it up. But since then, it's been lights out, And this ain't easy stuff. You know that, Sid. It's not easy. You got to be consistent. Don't get in over your head. Money management. Don't panic if you have a bad day. That's the stuff I can teach you. You know, you don't need me for 1 day, for 2 days. It's what I can do for you week in and week out.
Okay, so what kind of packages are available today at dbwins.com?
You know, you got monthly specials, you got the bowl specials. Everybody's different. You got guys that won't touch basketball. They don't like it. It's back and forth. Hey, it all spends the same. You know, I'm here to help everybody, Sid. Everybody that needs help that can afford it. First of all, if you're playing with scared money, don't call me. I get stories like, hey, Dan, I got a couple of $100 left. Don't pay your bills. You know, you got to be responsible with this stuff, Sid.
All right, so on the way out here, one more time, Danny likes the Bengals minus the 2.5 or 3 at home over the Raiders today. He's telling you, take the Giants and the Packers in a teaser. Take the Eagles and the over in a teaser against the Rams tomorrow night. And he likes the over Saints and Panthers from Carolina tomorrow night. One more time, Danny, give out the website and your cell phone number, and we'll call it a day.
dbwins.com, and the cell phone number is 239-898-8379. And Sid, I want to tell you, I love you, man.
I love you, too.
You've been great to me, and I am not going to let everybody down. Next week, I'm going to kill it.
Of course you are. You're going to kill it all year long. Check them out starting next Saturday night, the 22nd, here at 6 p.m. Danny, as always, great job, buddy. Really great job.
I love you, buddy.
Love
everybody,
you, too.
Happy holidays. Have a good time. Be safe. The Santa Clauses were in Hoboken yesterday, by the way.
Oh, the Santa Con. I know those drunken idiot kids. I know.
I watched a midget get arrested yesterday. It was fantastic.
It's such a mess. I know.
They're out of their mind, but they're young kids having fun. I love you, Sid. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. You too. Danny B. Check him out at dbwins.com. Thank you so much. Got lots more to come this hour. We'll do some college football coming up. There were 5 bowl games yesterday. None of the real big-name teams, but that's coming. It's starting this week, all leading up to the 2 semi-games, which, of course, include Alabama taking on Oklahoma and Notre Dame taking on Clemson before January 7th's national championship game. Also this hour, Anthony DiComo. He covers the Mets for MLB.com after a busy week of winter meetings, I should say, in Las Vegas. Plenty of Met news, plenty of baseball news as well. So lots more to do. Stick around. Exciting hour number 2, Sid Sports Sunday. And we're coming right back.
What did you say your name was?
Back here on Sid Sports Sunday, we'll talk Met baseball with Anthony DiComo of MLB.com coming up in about 20 minutes. And we've got stringers at 5 of the biggest games in the National Football League today. We've got somebody in Indy, somebody in Pittsburgh, somebody at Giant Stadium. It's called MetLife, I know. All that coming up this hour as well. We'll do some college football here. My favorite website for college football is goforthe2.com. Once again, that's goforthe2.com. And my good buddy Joe Lisi joins us most Sundays, and he's here today. Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Good morning, Sid. Bowl season kicked off yesterday. 5 bowl games, not great games, but it's still college football. And we have the national championship game on January 6th, so I'm pumped up.
Yeah, no, there was some, Tulane was a good game. In the end, they pulled away. Appalachian State blew the doors off of Middle Tennessee. I guess the best game of the day, and it still ended with an 11-point win, was Fresno State beating Herm Edwards in Arizona State. And I got to tell you, when the Arizona State quarterback gets hurt with like a minute left in the game and his mother is crying in the stands, I don't know if you saw that, Joe. That was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, it was. Manny Wilkins, a senior quarterback that entered that ball game with 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He stepped up this year. He completed over 63% of his passes, but got hurt with about 5 minutes left. And this is going to be the concern for college quarterbacks and players as they play in bowl games. Do they want to risk injury when they can make it, with the NFL draft in the coming months?
A couple of great quarterbacks set to go in these, the 2 semifinal games, which features Tua. He's okay. He's back at practice. And Alabama getting set for the Heisman winner, Kyler Murray and Oklahoma. Then, of course, Book and Notre Dame taking on Lawrence and Clemson for the right to play for the national championship on January 7th. One story came out this week, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, that big game coming up on December 29th, and that features a Michigan Wolverine team as better than a touchdown favorite against the Florida Gators, and Jim Harbaugh did come out this week. Hey, listen, despite the awful record against ranked teams, and especially Urban Meyer, who's gone now, and Ohio State, he says, I'm coming back to Michigan, folks. I ain't leaving.
Yeah, it's an intriguing comment before the bowl game. Now, Michigan matches up very well with Florida. they defeated them over the last couple of years in the regular season and in the bowl game. So we have to see how this bowl game steps up with Dan Mullen. But Jim Harbaugh, that he is on the hot seat in 2019, needs to step up in big games. But you know as well as anybody, money talks, and then if an NFL team throws money at him, he could be out the door from Ann Arbor.
You know, locally, we don't pay a lot of attention here to college football. Joe, you know, you were a guest of mine for many years down in Miami, and down there, SEC football, ACC football is bigger than the pros. Up here, we basically have Rutgers, but that's not true, because up here we've got Army. And they had a great season. They're going to take on Houston in a bowl game. Last couple of years, they've gotten better and better. How about this big bowl game coming up for Army?
Yeah, I mean, they defeated San Diego State last year in their bowl game, one of the most dramatic bowl games last year. The triple option is a lot different in game speed than it is in practice preparation, and Houston will be without its starting defensive tackle, Ed Oliver, that moved on to the NFL draft.
Oh, he hated his coach, by the way. Hated that coach.
Major Applewhite from Texas, the former Texas quarterback. They did not get along. But I could say this about Houston. Their weakness is in their secondary. They're giving up over 300 passing yards per game. They did face the triple option in Navy and won that ball game convincingly because of their speed on the perimeter. We'll see how this game plays out. I still lean to Army in that ball game, but it should be a very intriguing battle with Houston on its third quarterback.
Army, by the way, a 3-point favorite. And you're right, Major Applewhite did, in fact, split his playing time at Texas with one Chris Sims for the Giant fans out there. Memphis, Wake Forest, I guess you look at the matchups this week before the really big games, before Christmas and New Year's, the Jared Birmingham Bowl, Memphis and Wake Forest. That could be a good football game. Memphis, down the stretch, was just red hot offensively.
They are. They're going to be without their leading rusher, Darrell Henderson, that opted not to play in this ball game, but they're still a balanced offense that is averaging well over 200 yards per game and passing for right around 270 yards per game with Arizona State transfer quarterback Brady White. But I still lean to the physicality of Wake Forest with their head coach Dave Clawson. They defeated teams like NC State and Duke down the stretch. Have a freshman quarterback in Jamie Newman. He stepped up with the extra weeks of preparation. I think Wake Forest is a live dog in that matchup.
They are the dog, getting 3.5. Although the total in that game, 74, tells you about Memphis' offense. We'll wrap it up here, Joe Lisi. Give me a game coming up this week again before the big ones, before Christmas and New Year's. Outside the two I just mentioned, Army and Memphis, you think could be a good football game?
Well, I think Tuesday's football game, UAB and Northern Illinois. If you like defense, you got to watch this ball game. Very evenly matched Boca Raton Bowl. Northern Illinois has Sutton Smith. They have 50 total sacks. UAB enters this matchup 43 total sacks. But I lean to Bill Clark and UAB because of the physicality on the offensive line. Erdley, their quarterback, is a senior. They have leadership. I expect UAB to win that ballgame.
It's a beautiful stadium about 2 miles away from my house. I was there when Howard Schnellenberger built that stadium over at FAU for the Boca Raton Bowl. Anyway, GoForThe2.com is the website. Joe Lisi, you're always fantastic. And we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks. Merry Christmas, pal. Thank you.
Happy holidays, Sid. Love the show. Love talking college football with you.
Love you, too. We'll take a short break. We'll switch gears. NFL, college football. We do it all here on Sid Sports Sunday. We just got through the winter meetings. Baseball, Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas. And the Mets made some moves. Anthony DiComo covers the Mets for MLB.com. We'll talk Met baseball right after these words.
Sunday, driven by Ramsey Mazda. 77 WABC.
Back here on Sid Sports Sunday, mostly a football show, usually, of course, until the end of the season, but very exciting week in Las Vegas, Mandalay Bay, the winter meetings, and lots went down with some of the local clubs and all across Major League Baseball, but I can't think of a better time, folks, to talk about the Mets.
Meet the Mets. Meet the Mets.
And with that said, this guy is really a terrific writer covering the New York Mets for MLB.com and was in Vegas all week long and has all the lowdown on the New York Metropolitans. Joining us here on Sid Sports Sunday, my friend Anthony DiComo. Anthony, good morning, pal. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you very much. Hey, let's get to Brodie Van Wagenen. Of course, his first season as the Met GM. We'll get to the trade he pulled off weeks ago, the Cano-Diaz trade. But, you know, walking around Las Vegas and seeing the other guys at work, guys like Brian Cashman, who've been doing it for a very, very long time. What were your impressions this past week of Van Wagenen playing the role of Mets GM?
I thought he looks like a GM. He acts like a GM. I think he's dealt with GMs for so long that he understands what it takes and what's required to do the job well. And, I don't know long-term if he's going to be good, if he's going to be bad at this job, but I can tell you this. He's going to be prepared. He's going to go about it the right way. I'm not sure he slept more than 3 hours a night when he was in Vegas. So he clearly is putting everything he has into this job. So, yeah, at first blush, it looks right. It looks like it's supposed to look. And then we'll see about the work he does, and we'll see what the roster looks like when push comes to shove and when we get here to the new year and ultimately the spring training.
Well, I like the fact that he's aggressive. Even the trade that he pulled off a couple of weeks ago, which does land the guy that led the majors in saves last year with 57 in Seattle, pitched to a sub-2 ERA, and Robbie Cano. I was talking to Tom Verducci just last week, Anthony, and he was telling me, listen, Cano can still hit. 80 games later last year, he could still hit. He's got about 2 good years left. To me, that was an aggressive trade. He had to deal with some nonsense. Some of the, Cano's old. He was suspended as $100 million. He didn't care. He's like, I'm going to improve this bullpen. I'm adding a bat. And to be honest, I love the deal. And I like Brodie. I think the Mets have the right guy. What about you?
Yeah, no doubt. And look, you can argue all day if the Cano trade was good for the Mets, was bad for the Mets.
You know what's funny? Let me stop you. Let me stop you for a second. And you did this, it's not the Cano trade. It was the Diaz trade.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
And I don't want to, but everybody says that. They had to take Cano just to get the best closer in baseball.
Very true. And there's no doubt about that Diaz is the more impactful player. I guess my point is you can argue, long term if it was the right move for the Mets, but it's hard to argue that it doesn't make the team better in 2019. It's hard to argue that adding to a bullpen that ranked 20th in baseball last year, putting, like you said, the best closer in the game in that role, is not going to make this team better. So clearly, Brodie Van Wagenen is being aggressive, and like I said, long-term, big picture, what he ultimately does with this team, time will tell. If these are the right moves. But he is being aggressive. He is going about this in he has a plan. It's the simplest way to put it. He has a plan. He knows what he wants to do, and there is absolutely no doubt about it that Brodie Van Wagenen intends to compete for a playoff spot with his Mets in 2019, which, if you're a fan, what more could you ask for?
Well, the big question with the Mets, though, is always money, and
True.
Fred Wilpon's always been very, very good to me. In fact, when I got fired by WFAN back in 2005, and Joe Beningo announced it on the air, the second phone call I got that day, Jim Nantz was the first, was Fred Wilpon. He said, listen, Sid, whatever's going on with you, I wish you the best. You've always got friends here. Swear to God, true story. But that's a true story. Jeff, not so much, but Fred, yes. But make a long story short, the fans want to know. Brodie wants to be aggressive. Brodie wants to spend money, but do they have it? We don't really know the answer. A lot of fans go, they got nothing. Bernie Madoff took all their money. And others go, oh, hold on a second. They got some money. I don't know if you know the answer, Anthony. What's the truth? Do the Mets have money? Will they spend money? Or is it basically what you see is what you get and Madoff ruined them?
Well, I think the answer is a little bit of both. They have money. Their payroll has kind of steadily increased here. We're beyond those years of 2011, 2012 where they were gutting the payroll and just kind of putting a lot of replacement level players on the roster. They're well beyond that. They're spending money again, but they're not spending money recklessly. They're not in that realm of the top teams of the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, these teams that are flirting with the luxury tax. And, the Mets could do that. The Mets could easily go out and they could sign a Manny Machado. They could sign a Yasmani Grandal. They could sign some of these top free agents who are out there, maybe another reliever in Andrew Miller. It would make it a lot easier and a lot quicker to make over this roster, but that's not the reality for this team. And we have to kind of go forward knowing that their budget is going to be in that $150, $160 million range, however much they end up increasing. It's not going to be a ton. Obviously, spending money will make them better quickly, but it's something that ownership has not been willing to do. So this is the reality that Brodie Van Wagenen is living in, and he has to find a little more creative ways to make up for the roster.
Anthony DiComo, MLB Network, joining us here on Sid Sports Sunday. You mentioned Grandal, and we know the Mets would like to add one more outfield bat, but certainly catcher is a big deal, Anthony, for the Mets. Travis d'Arnaud is just not that guy. Thank God we got Noah Syndergaard. See, that was a d'Arnaud trade, but we got Syndergaard. This is a Diaz trade. We got Cano, but
Very true.
Right, but
I think most people would say that was the R.A. Dickey trade.
Right,
yeah.
You're right. You're right. It was the R.A. Dickey trade. That's right. But Grandal's name does come up this week at that position. Let me play this for you, Anthony. This is, in fact, Brodie Van Wagenen in Vegas a couple of days ago, talking about that specific position, and really JT Realmuto with the Marlins, catcher.
We've got a really good pitching staff, and so we want somebody that can stabilize that staff. And we've got Travis d'Arnaud and Kevin Plawecki that know our pitchers well because they've come up through the system with a lot of them, and there's some familiarity there. But if we can have a veteran presence that can prepare well, give our pitchers confidence in terms of what signals they're putting down and what pitches they're calling, then our pitchers can relax and go be the best versions of themselves. If we can add offense while also accomplishing a veteran presence behind the plate, then that's the holy grail.
What are you willing to give up to get that?
Everything, right? Everybody's been reported. We're going to give them all. We're going to give all of our players,
really,
and just say, okay, you know what? We're going to go with a one-man lineup and just have a catcher back there. No, we want to be smart. We want to be able to add to what we have, and if we're going to make any moves, we don't want to make it worse in another area by bringing in somebody, in one area.
Okay, well, now they did talk about jokingly giving up everybody because there were talks at the Marlins. Jeter wanted Ahmed Rosario. He wants Nemo. He wants everybody, basically. And Van Wagenen not willing to do that, but he really wants JT. So it's a two-part question. A, do you think the price comes down on Realmuto? And if not, these names, like you just said, Grandal, John Lucroy, one of those guys become more likely for the Mets?
Yeah, well, you just heard it from Brodie Van Wagenen's own mouth. I mean, that was pretty thinly veiled. He essentially referred to JT Realmuto as the holy grail. So that tells you all you need to know is that the Mets want this guy. They want him pretty badly, and they are going to try as hard as they possibly can to get him. He is probably the best catcher in baseball. If he's not, he's second or third. But, if the price does not come down, and the rumblings that you hear are Ahmed Rosario, Michael Conforto, Brandon Nimmo. We've even heard, I don't think this is going to happen, but we've heard Noah Syndergaard's name bandied about. So those are some big names. If you trade them away, it will create some big holes in the Mets roster. So I think, Brodie Van Wagenen is also looking at the reality that as much as he wants JT Realmuto more than anyone else, there's a chance it doesn't happen. And if it doesn't happen, yes, they would have to shift. They could shift to other trade targets. The Red Sox have some catchers available. Francisco Cervelli, as well as some other guys. They're not the sexiest names in the world, and then there are those free agents. Yasmani Grandal, Wilson Ramos, Martin Maldonado is a name that's come up a lot as a defensive-minded guy. And Van Wagenen has said on multiple occasions, you heard it just there again, that given his preference, if he had to choose between offense and defense at that position, he's probably choosing defense. So maybe Maldonado is the type of guy that the Mets ultimately default to. But I think the one thing that's clear, even if they don't get Realmuto, they want to upgrade from Travis d'Arnaud and Kevin Plawecki, who are the two guys in-house. And they're going to do everything they can to try and do that.
Let's talk about the bullpen. The Mets bring back an old friend this week, Anthony DiComo. Familia's back 3 years, $30 million. This time, not the guy that saved 51 games a couple of years ago, but in that setup role there before Edwin Diaz. What do you think about that? He was pretty good last year between the Mets and the Oakland A's. Had some issues here. We know that. Familia back with the Mets as a setup guy for Diaz. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he had some issues here for sure, but I think that masks the fact that he was a pretty good closer for a lot of his time, and he probably got a bad rap, just pitching-wise in terms of what he contributed to the Mets. He was a pretty good closer for a number of years, and the reason why the Mets liked him was twofold. One, his familiarity with New York. They do believe he can succeed here. He has succeeded here. He has a single-season Mets save record, so we've seen it. And two was his age. Unlike a lot of the other free agent relievers out there, the Andrew Millers of the world, Adam Ottavinos of the world, who are all kind of creeping up in their 30s, some of them even in their mid-30s. Jeurys Familia is still in his late 20s, and on a 3-year deal, he's going to be, I believe, 31 when the deal expires. So, a lot of belief that he can continue his performance, he can continue his current levels of production, throughout the life of that 3-year deal. $30 million, $10 million a year is no small piece of change. But the Mets made bullpen health a priority stuff, and now all of a sudden you look down, you have Edwin Diaz there, you have Jeurys Familia there, you have Seth Lugo and Robert Castell, and they're going to try and add a left-handed reliever still. So it has the makings of a pretty good bullpen. Some other younger arms, power arms, if they could pitch in the 6th inning, 7th inning. It looks like on paper, at least, they've gotten better from that bullpen that had almost a 5 ERA and ranked 28th in baseball last season.
No, there's no doubt they are much better. But as you talked about, they're very heavy right-handed. In fact, I think right now Zamora is the only lefty in the whole bullpen. Now, you brought up Andrew Miller's name. He's still out there. I got to think he's somebody to go after pretty hard. There's no question they must add a lefty in that bullpen. So is it fair to assume that Miller is the top guy on that list?
Well, you talked about money earlier, and this is where money comes in as a factor. Frankly, they probably won't be able to afford Andrew Miller. And I think Brodie Van Wagenen said that in so many words before he left the winter meetings, was that it's probably not in the budget to add 2 guys on 8-figure contracts like Jeurys Familia and Andrew Miller type. So you never know. The price could come down. Maybe Miller scares people off with his injury history, and the Mets can make a late run at him. But more likely, they're probably going to have to sign someone, a little lower down the pecking order. Justin Wilson's the name that's out there. Oliver Perez, who I know Mets fans know well, but he's had quite a good career as a lefty specialist since leaving. Jerry Blevins, who Mets fans also know well, is out there. So there are some guys in that lower tier that certainly the team can pursue. And they do also like Zamora. You mentioned a lot, a rookie last year. They think he can be an effective weapon out of that bullpen. So they'll add somebody, I'm almost certain. But I doubt it will be the Andrew Miller type. And like I said, that's where money comes in, because if you can just go out and buy Andrew Miller, then all of a sudden you're looking at a potentially elite bullpen.
Let's close this with this division. The Braves, young baseball team, and they won the division last year. They should be very good. Phillies have added a couple of stars, Segura, a few others. Maybe Bryce Harper ends up in Philly as well. The Nats, they add the biggest pitcher, Pat Corbin, to a staff that already includes Max Scherzer and Strasburg. So this division, there's no way to put it. I mean, it's a bitch, but the Mets, it is. But the Mets over the final 82 games have the best record in the National League, better than all of these teams, but they've all gotten better. The Mets have gotten better. So very simply, Anthony, going into this season, Mets, Phillies, Nationals, Braves, this could be the most competitive division in baseball outside the Marlins.
It very well might be. It very well might be the best division in baseball. And that's the thing about it. I don't know if you remember a few years back, Sandy Alderson threw out the number 90 wins out there as a challenge for his team. And that was in 2014. And the next year, the Mets wound up winning 90 games and winning the division and going on that run. I'm not sure you can put 90 wins as a target anymore in the NL East. There are so many good teams out there now, so many good young teams you can expect to be even better. So, you might need to win 95, 96 games or more to win the division. And that's what the Mets have to be looking at as they build this roster. That's what the Mets, I think, are looking at as they build this roster. It's going to be a challenge. You can't go into Atlanta anymore and expect to rip off 2 wins every 3-game series down there. You can't go into Philly anymore and expect to just bludgeon those guys at Citizens Bank Park. It's not going to happen. Those are talented teams. And again, like I said, you can expect the Braves and the Phillies both probably to be better than they were last year. And by the way, the Nationals aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They still have 2 of the best pitchers in baseball. They added Patrick Corbin to make a pretty dynamic rotation there. So it's going to be a challenge. That's why the Mets have to take care of their business now, this offseason, make sure they're building a roster that can compete with those heavyweights in the NL East.
What a great conversation, and you're a terrific writer, obviously. Anthony DiComo, MLB.com. An amazing job covering the Mets, and really enjoyed this conversation, Anthony. I hope you join us quite a bit throughout the spring training and the season, which should be a very exciting season. So excellent job in Las Vegas, some good writing, an excellent job here today, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're far nicer to me than I deserve. Appreciate it.
You got it, pal. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Anthony DiComo. We'll take a short break. More of Sid Sports Sunday right after these short messages.
You down with OBJ? Yeah, you know Sid. You down with OBJ? Yeah, you know Sid. You down with OBJ on Sid Sports Sunday? Not me. I'm not down with Odell Beckham Jr. He's a deadbeat slacker and gold brick who hangs with his homie. Who that nation's Lil Wayne? Puff, puff, pass the bone, not the pigskin. It was in 1970. Willis Reed had a torn thigh muscle and took it to the Lakers' Wilt Chamberlain. Willis Reed's a brick. OBJ is weak. They're both from Louisiana. And the Giants don't need OBJ to beat the Titans today.
Curtis, thank you so much. Curtis is so great every day, noon to 3 here on WABC, talking about the Giants and Titans. And we hope you enjoyed today's Sid Sports Sunday. I'm out next week. Ross Salzberg will be here. I'll be back in 2 weeks, right before we usher in 2019. I want to wish all of you a very, very, very Merry Christmas. For all of us here on Sid Sports Sunday, until tomorrow morning at 6 for the Bernie and Sid in the Morning Show. For Bruce Clayton, does a great job on the board. For my man, the great Mike Gunzelman, executive producer of this fine show, and all of our guests today. Talk to you guys in 2 weeks. Merry Christmas. Peace! For the Bernie and Sid in the Morning Show. For Bruce Clayton, does a great job on the board. For my man, the great Mike Gunzelman, executive producer of this fine show, and all of our guests today. Talk to you guys in 2 weeks. Merry Christmas. Peace!
NJDiet.com Studios, 77 WABC, New York. A Cumulus station news.
High winds in the west, heavy rain in the east. I'm Christopher Cruz. On the west coast, high winds have knocked out power in parts of Seattle and Idaho. On the east coast, meteorologist Mark Chenard at the Weather Prediction Center says there's been record rainfall.
So far this year, Washington, D.C. has seen over 63 inches. That's an all-time record for a year. And Wilmington, North Carolina has actually surpassed 100 inches, which is also well over their record.
As special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into alleged links between the 2016 Trump campaign and Russia continues, the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, tells Fox News Sunday the investigation has no focus.
They went from collusion to obstruction, no evidence. Now campaign finance, no violation of the law. No matter who's right about what they said, it's no violation of the law.
In one of 5 tweets from President Trump so far this morning, he writes, "Remember, Michael Cohen only became a rat after the FBI did something which was absolutely unthinkable and unheard of until the witch hunt was illegally started. They broke into an attorney's office. Why didn't they break into the DNC to get the server or Crooked's office?" Referring, of course, to Hillary Clinton. Negotiators, that is, from almost 200 countries, including the United States, have approved ways to implement the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. They met in Poland for the past 2 weeks, writing rules they hope will cut emissions and slow global warming. A warming, that is. Correspondent Nick Payton-Walsh is covering.
There is now a rule book for how greenhouse gases will be reduced. There are some holes in it. It's not perfect and it needs further work, but it's there now, and that was something people briefly thought may not come out of this.
President Trump will name a new Interior Secretary next week. The current Secretary, Ryan Zinke, is leaving at the end of the year because of what he calls in his resignation letter, vicious and politically motivated attacks. He faces numerous federal investigations. I'm Christopher Cruz.
77 WABC, traffic and transit.
Looking good at the Hudson River crossings this morning from the Raketina.com Traffic Center. I'm Steve Michaels on 77 WABC, the Garden State Parkway. We have a southbound accident at exit 148. That's Bloomfield Avenue. The right lane is closed. And, of course, no traffic on the Hutch between the New England Thruway all the way up to the Cross County. All north and southbound lanes are closed for the rest of the weekend. From the Raketina.com Traffic Center, I'm Steve Michaels on 77 WABC. It's 39 degrees. Here's Channel 7's Bill Evans with our forecast.
Cloudy skies, rain showers, wind, cold, raw. We are some damp Yankees on this Sunday. Keep your rain gear handy. Off and on rain now. It's windy and raw and rainy. This will continue into the afternoon, temperature only 43. Tonight, this rain goes away, and the low drops off to about 37, 38 degrees. But tomorrow, we got sunshine coming back on Monday. The high will be in the low and mid-40s. Keep your rain gear handy for the rest of the day in a nice, warm raincoat. This is meteorologist Bill Evans, 77 WABC, where New York comes to talk.
77 WABC. This program is sponsored by Jelinski Advisory Group. The views expressed by the following program are those of the sponsor and are not necessarily the opinions of 77 WABC or Cumulus Media.
The following program is sponsored by the Jelinski Advisory Group. Josh Jelinski is the president of Wealth Quarterback LLC, a registered investment advisory firm located in New Jersey. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm or its representatives by securities regulators, nor is it an indication that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability. only. Investment advisory services may only be provided to clients in jurisdictions in which the firm and its representatives are appropriately registered or exempt from registration. You should not assume that any discussion or information contained in this broadcast serves as the receipt of or as a substitute for personalized investment advice from the advisor. Different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk, and there can be no assurance that the future performance of any specific investment, investment strategy, or product, or any non-investment related content made reference to directly or indirectly in this broadcast will be profitable, equal any corresponding indicated historical performance level or levels, be suitable for your portfolio or individual situation, or prove successful. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Tired of losing money in the stock market roller coaster? Frustrated with the government taxing you into oblivion? Worried about inflation? How do you prepare for so many financial uncertainties? Welcome to the show that will help you develop your game plan. The Financial Quarterback with Josh Jelinski. Josh is a noted financial advisor and president of the Jelinski Advisory Group, and he's here to answer your questions. Now, let's kick off your financial future. Here's Josh Jelinski.
Financial Quarterback, coming to you live. If you have questions on stocks, bonds, annuities, mutual funds, whatever question you have, no question is a dumb one, except the one that you do not ask. So today we have a special treat for you. Lawrence J. Kotlikoff, professor of Boston University fame, will be taking your questions on Social Security later on in the broadcast. But first, I think my accuracy of predicting elections may call me the political quarterback. Just like I had predicted, it was a bloodbath in New Jersey and the Northeast for blue state Republicans, and the Senate was kept by the Republicans, and even a couple of pickups. What does that mean for your wallet? Well, I'll tell you what it'll mean in this episode of The Financial Quarterback. Now, just to be clear here, we go by what these candidates said while they were running. Some of them said, hey, we want higher taxes. Now, because the Republicans won both, have the presidency for 2 more years, guaranteed, barring some type of weird impeachment. But then even then, you'd have Mike Pence. So you'd have Republican rule for 2 years in the presidency. You'd have Republican rule in the Senate, Democrat rule in the House. So that means gridlock. Gridlock is traditionally very good for the stock market, because nothing big can happen. No landmark changes like last year's tax reform plan. That was largely due to the Republicans controlling both houses of Congress. I'm disappointed that not more was done to cut taxes even further. I think to have the much